Good morning, English 9 parents, and happy Monday. Wanted to catch you up really quickly on what it is that we've been working on, where we're going, and why. As far as where we've been, students turned in their success projects not that long ago. For the most part, those grades are all in. If students did a writing, if they turned in a physical project, they're sitting down with me this week to kind of walk me through that project a little bit, just to make sure I can cross all the T's, dot all the I's, make sure I can make all of the connections. But for the most part, those grades are in. If students are unhappy with the score that they earned, encourage them to come talk to me and we can figure out if that's something that they want to rework or revisit a little bit. But they should have got some good feedback on those. As far as where we're going, eventually we are getting to our first novel of Mice and Men. We're going to get to that in just a few weeks. But we were working on the success unit, which was all nonfiction, collections of short little articles, trying to synthesize those together like we talked about in a previous video. So it feels like a pretty big jump to go from short nonfiction pieces to all of a sudden a longer piece of fiction of Mice and Men. So to help them with that, we're doing a short story unit. And really our big goal there is to think a little bit about finding patterns across a text and then figuring out what do those patterns tell us about kind of that central idea. The best way to think about the central idea is the iceberg analogy. 90% of an iceberg is beneath the surface. What students tend to focus on is that 10% that's on the surface. Who are the characters? What is happening? And that stuff's really important. It's entertaining, and it's there for a purpose. But that purpose also is a little bit deeper. It's what the writer wants us to take away from the particular text more than just a cute story. There's usually something a little bit deeper happening there. Our goal is to figure out what's happening on the surface, what patterns can we find, and then what does that probably tell us is really at the core of this story. That's our goal. What is it that we're supposed to learn from it? And also, what are the choices that the writer made to help us get there? So far, we've read two really short pieces. We've read a piece called Waiting. It is a single page. It is actually a single sentence. Ask your student maybe why we read a short story all with one long sentence. It is not punctuated, quote unquote, correctly, but it's for a purpose. That was a good mystery for us to work on. And then towards the end of last week, students read a short story, 2 pages long, called Checkouts. This week, we're going to be reading a short story called Hearts and Hands. We'll do that today. Ask them a little bit about the twist at the end, see if they figured it out. If not, we're going to go back to that tomorrow. We'll see if anyone can figure out the twist that happens at the end. And then the big one is The Most Dangerous Game. We start that on Wednesday, and it's the closest to of Mice and Men in terms of not necessarily content, but the idea of having to find patterns across multiple pages. So far, all of our short stories have been 1 to 2 pages. This one is 18, I believe. So, not a full-on novel, but a long short story. It's a great chance for us to kind of practice that. So we're going to be working on that together a little bit Wednesday, a little bit Thursday, a little bit Friday. Students are going to finish that over the weekend, and then we're going to do some close analysis of that throughout next week. It's a cool text. Students usually really like it. It's like an early version of the Hunger Games of sorts. It was written in the 1920s, maybe 30s, but it doesn't feel that old. And so usually students really, really like it, and it's a great text for us to find those patterns, as we said. So hopefully that'll be a really good challenge for us, and I look forward to seeing kind of what your students pick out from it, both for what's on the surface and then what's kind of happening beneath the surface. Like, what's that central story? What are we supposed to learn from a story like that? So that's kind of where we're headed. Next week, a couple keynotes, and then I'll make sure I make note of this next week in the video as well. But 2 quick notes. 1, parent-teacher conferences are Thursday. I hope to see you. And if you can't make it, please let me know if there's anything extra that I can be adding into these videos that can help you help your student. So keep that in mind. And then the other thing is next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday, the day after conferences, students have their first test. It's on the short stories. So it'll be on those 4 short stories we've read, the 2 from last week, the 2 from this week, and then again the analysis that's happening Monday through Thursday next week. The reason that we're kind of taking our time too, we've started to mix in some grammar stuff. You'll hear more about that. We've only done a day or 2 of it, but there's going to start being more sentence study things, so hopefully we'll start to see a few commas appear, a few apostrophes appear in some of those things, especially for our students who tend to skip over those things a little bit. But that's pretty much where we've been, where we're going, and I'm excited to see what our next few weeks hold. Hope to see you next Thursday, as I said, and we'll talk soon. Have a great one.